California for Newcomers. Audiobook by Vladimir Derkach. Narration is by author. California not only through Russian eyes. Copyrights. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form except for the inclusion of brief quotation in a review without permission in writing from the author or publisher. Design Vladimir Derkach. Illustrations Vladimir Derkach. Localization editing Anastasia Buxton, Katya Pronichenko. Introduction. Just relax yourself, my dear reader. This is not a boring file of someone wanted, but a portrait of a loved one. Dedicate some time to it and let Jaconda, California, will mysteriously smile back to you. Life is beautiful, I thought while sitting in the bus and looking through the window. The icy Moscow sidewalk, inundated by amber light, surprised me with a silhouette in the red coat moving oddly in the frosty mist of a cigarette smoke. She was a beautiful stranger of whom I had previously seen in the park. I remember her by the fact that she always looked up into the sky as she supported her head with a hand. She seemed to be waiting for someone descending from there. Is it a flying saucer she is searching for? Or is something else coming to get her? I wondered, what does she keep looking up to? The stranger entered the bus and, being for a moment uncertain, got a seat next to me. Overall, the neighborhood wasn't that bad, and she probably realized that. I, of course, could miss such an opportunity once she sat down, straightened her back slenderly, and directed her glance straight ahead, as if she were interested in the license plate of the car driving ahead of us. I turned my whole body to her. I have nothing to hide, and quietly but confidently pronounced, "I've seen you in the park." I paused for 2 seconds and added unconditionally, "Often." She was not embarrassed and even joyfully answered, "Yes, I walk there every day." An unexpected response. It sounded somehow not human, or at least not Russian. There was something wrong about this openness, but I didn't mind. Very well, I kept pushing the subject. My next question was an arrow that went straight to the heart. "Do you live here?" "No, I came to visit my aunt." The conversation immediately took on the character of coal mining in harsh conditions, although why should I complain? I asked her where she lives, not directly, of course, but through a statement. We, Russians, always do it this way. We ask, answering to ourselves. For example, don't you have milk? No, we don't. I expected the same from her too. She did give an answer and even clarified whom she was visiting, but according to the Russian logic algorithm, one thing was missing here in her answer. Where does she live? Russians always elaborate a question and answer by skipping ahead, as if saving time on the second and third phases that may follow. "And from where are you visiting your aunt?" I went on, crushing the anthracite of ignorance with a jackhammer of persistence. "From California." She looked at me straight in the eyes with her widely dilated pupils and moved her eyelashes once. "So that's why you've been looking for a UFO all this time. As if you are searching for help, take me out of this inclemency back to my beautiful, shiny California. But they ignore you and don't come to take you." "Oh, I was born here in Moscow, but now I live in Los Angeles." The process of man's thinking is probably directly related to the speech apparatus. They say Americans think by moving their tongues. I do the same thing. My thoughts, like the aerobatics team, the Thunderbirds, exploded as fireworks were trying to cover the maximum number of options for the further conversation. My tongue went soft and slightly moving along with my jaw and swallowed itself down. The image of palm trees, Schwarzeneggers, Malibu, billionaires' houses, this nice stranger with an ABC primer under her arm in a snow-covered school in Moscow, perestroika, Putin, petrodollars, and Biden smiling over everyone kaleidoscopically like a wheel of fortune and casino, flooded my eyes. "It's hot over there," my voice freed out affirmatively. Such a simple and natural phrase totally has iced up my already discordant information processing, similarly to a wacky computer. The cliché. We are all a product of cliché. When I was in Paris and told others that I'm from Moscow, everyone at once responded with a, it's cold up there." It's my stop," she flashed the pearls off her teeth. "Bye." My head jerked forward. The rest of the sound, I got stuck somewhere in the liver area. She walked quickly to the door and held 6 feet from it. When the bus stopped and the door was opened, she got out and in passing by my window waved at me with some kind of funny mitten and smiled. I never saw her again. It looked like that damn UFO must have landed after all and taken her back to California, but why should I care? What difference does it make to me? Who is she to think about? She is California. She is in an incredible paradise, an unreachable paradise. Where else can I meet someone like her? But still, who is she, this California, for me to think about? Who are you, California? California is where it is hot. Instead of preface, take me with you, tourists. In the late 1970s in Moscow at VDNH, there was one very interesting object. It was called Circa Rama. The magic started every 20 minutes, and there was not a single chair in the hall. The doors were opened, and the audience was led into the dome. In anticipation of a miracle, everyone moved as close to the center as possible, and the miracle has been launched. A perfectly round hole was plunging into the darkness, and an image was projecting on all the walls 360 around. 11 double screens with stereo sound effects were bringing the stunning landscapes to life. There was an illusion of movement. One could look in any direction. One could even walk, though very carefully, otherwise the bewitched spectators could cast an unflattering remark. The film, which ran from sunrise to sunset, was called "Take Me With You, Tourists!" The plot was simple. A Volga GAZ-21 car with the film cameras mounted on the roof and filming everything around, the great-grandfather of today's Google Street View, moved through the picturesque places of the USSR and thus introduced its citizens to the well-loved country. I, then a teenager, stood with my mouth open in admiration, and it seemed to me these words, "Take me with you, tourists," were pounding in my ears. My family always traveled a lot. This feeling of voyage was very well known to me. The smell of a train platform and especially of a passenger car tents, fishing rods, a box of gunpowder and cartilages, backpacks were dearer to me than the aroma of any cake or chewing gum, a very rare treat for us in those days. When the parents were pronouncing their cherishing tomorrow, we are going to the Volga River, Klezma, Crimea, Ukraine, Leningrad, etc., the world was turning inside out into an imaginary parabolic mirror. My stomach was getting butterflies, and the flutter of their wings greatly interfered with my concentration and packing toys back to their drawers. The road, to me, has always been a book that opens more and more new pages. I made all major discoveries while being on the road. Therefore, everything that you will learn from the following chapters is nothing more than a byproduct of covering hundreds of thousands of miles, and not necessarily across the USA. Statistics. Almost a file on a wanted man. Capital, Sacramento. Largest city, Los Angeles. Other cities, San Diego, San Jose, San Francisco. Governor, Karen Bass, 2023. Area, third in the United States. Population, first in the United States. Highest point, 4,421 meters. Lowest point, minus 86 meters. Became a state, 31st in order. Date of formation, September 9th, 1850s. Time zone, Pacific time, GMT -7. Landing. In 1995, I personally saw a UFO, and I realized that the time to fly had arrived for me too. But there was a question: where to? It is now that I do understand that most of those dreamers who are flying away have no idea where they are going. But they do know exactly what is left behind. They also know what not to do, meaning the negative terminal in this migrant's battery strongly beats the positive one. This is what tints their rose-colored glasses and provides a pioneer's spirit. They were prepared, they were read and listened and studied, but they could reread the entire encyclopedia for almost 100 times, and still they will come across some town that was not mentioned in the reference books, where the locals think, say it in an unexpected ways. And only by walking around and talking to locals, the immigrant will be able to make sense of everything and how to deal with it the right way. The grayish desert's view has been visible through the porthole for the third hour of a non-stop flight. The spots of creosote bushes scattered over the scorched brown hills looked like a lead shot. A hot strip of white air on the horizon was not adding much information to tired passengers either. Suddenly, out of blue, an ocean popped up, sparkling painfully on the horizon. The shiny light flooded the aircraft cabin, and the plane, sharply laying a turn over Malibu, entered the territory of Los Angeles. Squares, 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 squares. Gray, 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 gray. It looked like this city is a humongous parking lot for houses. The 80-story cornfield of downtown skyscrapers burst into the sky. The plane released the flaps, having made it 180-degree turn with a chance to look at the city in more detail, and nervously leveled off. Below, the slowly crawling cars were obeying the traffic lights. The multi-million city was all busy by itself and obviously didn't expect my visit. This city of millions didn't even suspect that I was arriving today. This feeling of an invisible man has always been haunting me. Whether I've been coming to a metropolis or an abandoned northern village, I always felt that this was their local life, and their local life has not yet intertwined with mine. So far, I've been a stranger, even if I was met by friends or relatives. This didn't affect the feeling of an invisible man. Even though this feeling is very strong, it doesn't last more than 5 minutes and disappears with the first greeting on the first step on the new land. The plane gave bounce, and the gray cloud hovered over the hot runway, dissipating in the air and pleasing itself with its contribution to the Los Angeles smog. The taste of the sea breeze burst into the cabin, and the passengers, already intermarried over a long flight, looked around anxiously, scattered through the queues at the passport control. Now I could confidently say, California is waiting for me. Surprise City. There are things in the world that are familiar, have existed for a long time, and are not amenable to discussion. When you look at them with the fresh look of a novice or an alien, which is basically the same thing, such new horizons open that you feel uneasy. How did no one see or notice that before me, or even think about it? Since then, I have asked myself the question why, a question that is rarely heard in the USA. I began to discover Los Angeles, and the search started with finding out that the City of Angels is in fact not the City of Angels. Well, firstly, the name of the city of Los Angeles is a fragment from the full phrase of its name at the time of its founding in 1781 by the Spaniards. And its full name goes as follows. El pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de los Ángeles del Río de Parcíncula. This, translated from Spanish, sounds like settlement of Our Lady, Queen of Angels, on the Parcíncula River. That was a surprise. So all this time, I lived in the city of Our Lady and not in the city of Angels. This makes a big difference. Now I understand why there are so many beautiful and nicely shaped women over here opposing the rest of America with its heavy weights. Now I understand why Los Angelinos are so kind and welcoming. It turns out that they live without knowing it under the hand of the Mother of God. As the saying goes, whatever you call a boat, that's how it will float. Also, it is clear now why Los Angeles has such a divine climate. It has 325 sunny days a year and only about 10 rainy ones. The city is immersed in greenery. Lawns are regularly watered, and the bathtubs are filled with water in a matter of minutes. Doesn't it sound like heaven to you? And with a little geographical research, it turns out that there is no other place on Earth where I could get to any climate zone in a 2-hour trip by car. See for yourself. 2 hours drive east, and we are in the Mojave Desert, in the town of Palm Springs. Sands, cacti, snow-capped peaks of the San Jacinto Mountains, hot springs, golf courses, by the way, including some of the best in the world, and the wind turbines are waiting for their Don Quixote. During the winter time, a unique aerial tramway will lift us up to the height of 8,516 feet into the snow piles. Another half an hour driving east, and we are in Joshua Tree National Park, where the plants can only compete with huge, of a tour bus size, boulders silently pushing against each other for millions of years. A photo like a boulder and I, or me under a tree, can adorn an album of any family. And you will be asked, where is it? Not far, at Joshua Tree Park. You will say smooth spoken, and your guests will envy you from the bottom of their hearts. Although it is a 2-hour drive from the city of the Queen of Angels, only a few have been there. Ironically, countless movies have been filmed there too. The appearance of Hollywood was possible and gained foothold in Los Angeles only because whenever someone came up with an idea to shoot a film on Mars, nature was always at hand. For example, take the Red Rock Canyon 2 hours north by Highway 14. 2 hours driving west will bring you to Santa Barbara, the ocean and the steep mountains of Santa Ynez, vineyards with world-famous wineries and full-flowing rivers, feather grass steppes with oak woods, theaters and museums, all at your service. The idea of Little Denmark, with its windmills, cheesecakes, chocolate, and the meatballs beyond the San Carlos Pass, is materialized in a cozy town of Solvang. No wonder Michael Jackson decided to build his Neverland ranch over there. If we drive south from LA for 2 hours, we will find ourselves in San Diego, the birthplace of California. Trams run from here to Mexico, 20 minutes of wheel clutter, and we are at a checkpoint by the neighboring country. Hollywood decided to stake out here in Los Angeles. New companies popped up one after another, producing movies and sometimes producing towns such as Universal City. The climate permitted and in fact insisted on building. Even the famous Hollywood sign, originally Hollywoodland, which was intended to advertise a real estate company instead of the supposed 3 years to function, stood for more than a century in this paradise climate. You won't find strong winds in Los Angeles, let alone hurricanes. Heavy rains or steady showers don't happen here. If there are some showers, they mostly go down at night. Conditions like frost, ice, snow, hail, or heavy fog don't exist here. It is never very hot or very cold in Los Angeles. Here, you rarely see a thundercloud or even hear the thunder itself. The ocean in the Los Angeles area is very calm. No wonder the Spaniards called it El Océano Pacifico. I never saw a wave higher than 3 feet tall. I feel sorry, of course, but only a little, that all this surface in Malibu, sitting on their boards, waiting for the wave, it looks like they're immobilized in eternity. However, every 9 seconds, the well-built surf hits the shore. And this 1 meter tall wave works perfectly for these guys. Stable, long, angled, and durable. It makes training not only pleasant, but also safe. Having learned to catch this local philanthropic wave, surfers then go to Hawaii. Over there, they can realize their ambitions to the fullest. The fact that the ocean in the Los Angeles area is quiet was discovered by the pioneer sailor Magellan. During his 3-month journey, he hadn't encountered a single serious wave, let alone a storm, so he crossed out with a confident hand the old name El Mar del Sur, South Sea or Ocean, and wrote El Océano Pacifico. The South Sea existed on the maps, firstly because according to all suspicions and calculations, China was somewhere beyond it. Secondly, because when Cortes and his associate Balboa, after crossing the Mesoamerica, finally reached the coast of today's Pacific Ocean, it was evening and the tropical sun painted the sky orange and yellow. As you know, the ocean is a mirror of the sky. What color is the sky? That color is the ocean. Fascinated by such a tropical sunset, tired travelers called the sea ocean the South. There is, however, another option. Exploring more and more the coast adjacent to today's Guatemala, the Spaniards were increasingly talking about an Océano Grande, which generally makes sense. As it turns out later, the Pacific Ocean is also the grandest in size. How lucky California is again! It even has the greatest ocean on Earth.